Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm with the SHARE project here in Haywood County. And as you might know by now, SHARE stands for Spreading Hope and Awareness and Removing the Epidemic Stigma. Today, we've got an interview of a different sort. A lot of the interviews that I've done up to this point have been mostly about resources in the area and people that are working in those resources. And today, I am talking with Brian Kinder. He is in recovery. He is not with a resource. He is just simply going to tell us his story. I'm going to ask him some pretty specific questions about his past and his history and how he got into using drugs in the first place and things like that. And the goal in this interview for me, and I think for you too, Brian, is we are spreading hope today. For some people, especially those that are in the throes of addiction or early stages of recovery, they may not encounter a lot of people that are successful in recovery. Long-term, short long-term, if you will, because you're going to tell me how long you've been in recovery. So anyway, this is about spreading hope. There is hope for recovery. There is hope for coming out on the other end of a life that's been mostly led in addiction and drug use. So I'm going to let Brian start with telling us a little bit more about himself, where you're from, give us a little bit of some family background, if you would, where you went to school, those types of things. So
all right,
take it away.
My name is Brian Kinder. I'm 35. I grew up here in Western North Carolina. Went to Tuscola. I have an older brother. I was into sports and stuff like that growing up. I had a good family growing up until my parents divorced at about 16 years old, and then things started getting a little different at that point in time. And after high school, I went to college for a couple of years, but it was basically just to get away. I wasn't really focused on college or anything like that.
Just a change of scenery for you.
Yeah.
Yes. So when did your drug use start then?
The first time I ever used was probably 14 or 15 years old.
Okay.
Just smoking weed probably with.
Okay. So just experimenting, the
Yeah.
typical. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So your family history sounds like at least up until 16 it was very normal.
Oh, very
normal.
normal.
So you can't say that you started using drugs to escape a.
No, definitely not. I don't know exactly why I started using drugs, but I loved getting high, really. That's basically what it was at that point in time. Getting away from feeling normal, I guess. I love the way it made me feel.
Yeah. So what was your normal feeling then?
Normal was good, too. That's what it doesn't make much sense.
Okay.
It doesn't make much sense, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I guess it was something to do with friends. It was cool, I guess, at the time.
So a little bit of peer pressure.
Yeah.
I guess you could say. Yeah, which is typical at that early age, for sure. Yes. So how long did it take you then before you realized that drug use was becoming a problem? Did it carry on over? You graduated high school, so didn't have a problem with graduating.
No.
At that point, so it wasn't really a problem at that point.
It was probably a problem at making better grades and stuff like that, but I didn't see it at the time. I would say before I realized it was a problem was probably 19 or 20, just drinking every day.
Okay, so alcohol as well,
Yeah, when you just go to the store every single day and before even lunchtime sometimes, so that's when I realized it was a problem. But I didn't really care.
Yeah, well, 19 or 20, you don't really.
No.
Yeah. And you were in college at that time then?
Yeah.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Wake Tech in Raleigh,
Okay.
Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was drug use fairly prevalent? Drinking, I would assume, was quite prevalent.
Yeah, anything I could really get my hands on that I had experienced before I was
How old are you now?
35.
35. That's
Yeah.
right. You said that. Yeah. So how quickly then? I assume at some point it escalated from alcohol and just your, basic recreational drugs. How? When did it turn? When did it take the turn where you were using things besides just alcohol and weed?
So, when I was 21, I went to visit some friends in Knoxville, Tennessee, for my birthday, my 21st birthday, and we partied that night and whatever, and went to McDonald's like at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I fell asleep in the back of the car and fell out. And basically, we got back to the dorm room, and I never got out of the car. And my friends went in and realized I wasn't there, came back out, opened my door, and I fell off out of the car onto my head.
Oh my.
Fractured my skull and started taking pain pills through the doctor at that point in time. So
Okay.
that's how I was introduced to pain pills long before that. But basically, that's how I can get them, was through that.
Regularity.
Yeah, and then I started getting them every month for a few months, and then they cut it off, and that's when it started going on the hunt on the streets for that started. So about 21.
Okay. So then when you had to go on the hunt for them, at that point, did you realize that you might be addicted to those pills then?
Not
You
yet.
hadn't even put that together
Not
yet?
No. I remember the day that happened, but
So tell me about that.
oh man, I was trying to sleep one night. I was with my my ex-fiance trying to sleep, and I was kicking around like couldn't sleep or anything like that. I realized, man, I haven't taken a pill in a while. It might be that. So I ended up laying in the bathtub till the very early morning, until my neighbor woke up that had a prescription that could help me feel well again, which that's when I realized I was definitely addicted.
Oh, baby. And how old were you at that point?
I would say 25 or 26.
Okay, so for years,
Yeah.
you went basically taking pills every day then, would you say?
Yeah, every day.
And you didn't realize
Didn't realize.
until that many
Yeah.
years later that you were actually addicted.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it took a while.
Yeah.
It was all normal. It was easy to get them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel the need to take more? Had you started building up a tolerance and
For
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It took more and more and more every time, I'm sure.
Wow.
It's hard to remember exactly, but
Well, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you do then from that point on, from the day that you realized, and then you kind of started putting some things together? Then where did you go with it from there?
Well, I realized I couldn't financially keep up with that.
Okay.
So I was playing softball or something with a team, and one of my friends told me about Suboxone at that point in time.
Okay.
And then I started getting Suboxone on the street, which was much, much cheaper than the pills were. So I did really good with Suboxone for a little while.
Okay. So let me stop you right there, and you tell us what
All right.
Suboxone is.
Suboxone is a maintenance drug that basically triggers the receptors in your brain the same as a pain pill would, to let your brain know that you're getting what you want. It basically blocks, I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but it works at blocking you from withdrawing and stuff like that.
Okay. So it is used as medicated assisted therapy. It is one of the 3 primary MATs, medicated assisted treatments, that there are. So did you know at that time that's what you were taking, or did somebody just say, hey, take this and this will keep you from feeling
I
bad?
researched it before
Okay,
I
so you
took
did
it.
know.
And it was at that point in time the miracle drug. It saved me at that point in time. It definitely saved me.
Okay. All right. So were you able during this time then able to function fairly normally? Were you working? You had finished college?
No, I did not
You
finish.
Okay.
I never finished one class. So
No kidding.
yeah, I never even went. I never even went.
Yeah.
None of that. But I was definitely functioning at the time. Definitely functioning. To most people, I believe the people closest to me knew something was going on, but it wasn't major at that point in time because the Suboxone definitely helped budget and stuff like that. I mean, I would get 10 Suboxone last me a month, so it wasn't that expensive.
Right. Okay, so at this point then, this carried you on to what age, would you say? You were on the Suboxone?
I probably only did that for a year or 2 maybe. And then I got bored with that and moved back to the pills.
Okay.
I don't know what if anything happened or if I just did it.
Were you back here in this area then at that time?
Oh yeah, I was here. Yeah, I had a job. I was holding down the job and all that.
Okay, so you were functioning fairly.
Yeah.
Yes. And then just decided to move back to pills.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, stupid, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely moved back to pills. I have no idea why. I don't think I remember exactly when it happened, but once you make that move, it's straight down to being strung out on pills again. It happens like that.
Yeah.
So Suboxone is so far from your mind.
Yeah.
You just go back to that. Because Suboxone lasts so long, so if you take a Suboxone, it's going to last 3 days. So you don't really want to take a Suboxone if you're actively using.
Yeah. So why do you think then that, for one thing, why did you know you were struggling with addiction? Would you have made that connection in your mind? Or were you just so not motivated, if you will, you know, and didn't really care? You really didn't see as going back to pills as though that you were, would you have, I don't like to use the word addict, but would you have considered yourself an addict at that time? Okay, so you did realize that then.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, so did you want to stop, or did you just didn't really care?
Didn't care at that point in time. I didn't want to stop. It took me till about 30 before I wanted to get help.
Okay.
I didn't really care for a long time. I just wanted to keep making money and keep it up, whatever it was. Was sort of invincible. Didn't care about. It wasn't that I didn't care about dying. It was that I didn't think it would happen to me.
Just didn't enter your mind. Yeah. You stayed with pills, or did you move to anything else?
I moved to heroin about 29 or so.
Okay.
Something like that.
And only then at that point, or were you still doing pills?
Or heroin wasn't as easily accessible, so it was a little above.
Okay.
Yeah. Until you find a person that can get it for you all the time. So.
What was going on in your family at this time? Did your parents know what was going on with you? Your mom, maybe in particular, did say there was a divorce there.
I'm sure they knew what was going on. I spilled the beans to both of them years and years before, and we looked at options and getting help and stuff like that. But as soon as I started with the heroin the first time, soon after that was the first time I entered like a treatment program.
Okay.
So that's when I knew it was serious.
Okay.
Problem.
So that was your late 20s, early 30s then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was right at 30, right at my 30th birthday.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So pick up from there then. So you went into a treatment center, because this wasn't that long ago now. Now we're entering into the last 5 years basically.
Yeah. So at 30, I went to Addict, which is a treatment center in Black Mountain. And it's about a 2-week detox, and then they do a 2-week rehab. So I went into detox not knowing anything about anything, and it was probably one of the scariest times of my life. But the thing that I remember the most is I was so scared to go in there and withdraw like really bad, and it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad at all. They give you some medication to help you with that. So anybody struggling and thinking you're gonna be like on your deathbed, you're not gonna be like that. Nobody in there was like that at all. So that might help somebody.
Yeah. And then what'd you do from that point?
Okay, so at that point, this is not a good idea, but at that point, I moved to Florida to try to get away.
Okay,
from people.
interesting.
Doesn't work.
Okay.
Doesn't work.
Say that again. Say that in camera.
Moving away does not work. If you want to move away, like, drugs are gonna be wherever you go.
Yeah.
They'll find you, no matter what. I was doing really well in Florida, doing really good. I was probably almost 6 months clean, probably.
Okay.
And this guy I was working with just said something that just rang a bell in my head.
Was
That was it.
It was
That was
trigger.
it.
Yeah.
It was over. And then within 3 months after that, I was back in rehab. So it don't take long.
Yeah.
You can't sustain it. It's just impossible.
So how many times, and we won't go through, how each place,
Yeah.
if you will, but how many times then were you in and out of treatment? How many times did you try to stop and didn't succeed and failed?
So does going to rehab count as trying?
Yeah, I would say.
Okay.
Because if
I've been to detox 7 times, 8 times maybe. I've been to detox and rehab. Detox, that's 2 different things.
yes,
Detox, you can go to detox for 3 days and leave. You can leave at your own will or whatever. But rehab is the follow up that
Yes.
sort of teaches you about why you're using and stuff like that. So I've been to rehab probably 3 out of 7
Okay.
maybe. So I'd say I tried 3 times.
okay,
So if you're going to detox, it's basic. I use the treatment centers as a way to not be sick a few times
yes,
and just get out of the monotony, like the normal
yes.
craziness. Just get out for a few days and come back. And I did the same thing. So that's not good either, to use those as just a crutch to get by for a few days. But yeah. So the answer to your question is probably four times.
Okay.
I took it seriously.
Okay, so I want to ask then, we're going to backtrack just a little bit, but right now I want to ask you how long you have been in recovery now. How long have you been?
September 27th will be 1 year.
That is right around the corner.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the longest?
This one.
Yes, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. So, and that year mark is a big deal.
Yeah.
As far as not just physically, but at least that's you often hear. That's you're in new habits, you're in a new way of thinking, and those kinds of things. So that
week was
definitely
so hard.
Yeah.
A year or 2 ago, I couldn't string a week together to save my life.
So what do you think, I'm going to ask a couple of questions that kind of go back a little bit. What do you think, why do you think you got addicted and why do you think you got addicted and some of your friends didn't, if you will? What do you think was the difference for you?
For me, I just never could get enough. I was always bored. I wanted the next big high. I wanted to try new things. I guess my mentality was different. I didn't see the big picture as much as my other friends that I was around did.
Okay.
What was important to me was getting high. It wasn't what am I going to do with myself later on in life? How am I going to make money? Am I going to build a family? Those questions never, ever entered my mind. Yeah.
So what's made the difference this time?
Longer term treatment. I went to the First Step Farm for a long time. It was a long time I was spent. So I went to Addict, and then I went to First Step Farm. So I was out a total of 8 months. I went and worked on a farm with 20 other addicts, picking tomatoes, doing not so much fun work, make you realize what's important, and they teach you how to be a part of a support group and stuff like that.
Okay, so are you tell me a little bit now. What's going on now? Are you on any medicated assisted treatment of any kind
Yeah,
yourself?
I do take Suboxone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that has worked for you.
Definitely
Okay.
works, yeah.
What would you tell people? Because I do hear this a lot. What would you tell people that say methadone, Suboxone, and any of those is just trading one drug for another? How would you encourage those people to change their way of thinking?
Would you rather see me dead than to have me take that? I mean, it's one or the other, at this point in time. I'm very early in recovery, so I don't see myself taking that forever, but if I didn't have it right now, I'd be dead.
Yeah.
That's straight up.
Yeah. And I think that's true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta experience some of this stuff yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, never do.
Yeah, no, but still, yeah, it's hard for some to relate that have.
Yeah.
So.
And, I mean, the drugs eat you
And
alive.
that is a big deal, because if you haven't experienced, you have to listen to what you're saying and what your experience has been, and not negate that, if you will, and dismiss that because thinking that what you know is better, because you are in the situation.
Yeah.
So tell me some of the negative consequences then, you've touched on a little bit, that have not only happened to you physically, but also, emotionally. Have you lost friends to that, were in either an early circle in your life with? And
I'm sure I've definitely lost friends. I guess I definitely lost friends earlier that I grew up with. But if I were to reach out, I could probably get them back. But at this moment in time, I'm focused on just me.
Yeah.
But I'll probably burn some bridges for sure.
What about friends that have passed
Friends that have passed away?
because of addiction?
That's one of the main reasons I'm doing this right now. A lot of friends have passed away, that really good people, that it's just very sad. It happens to the best people. And they surely didn't think it was going to happen to them, and it just all of a sudden you hear so-and-so died, and it's just pulls at your heart a little bit. But
Yeah.
what were you asking as far as?
Well, that just, what have you lost as far as friends
Yeah,
that passed, and what other negative consequences have you? Are you close with your family? Is that so? That's not been an issue. And
No. I was lucky to have a family that stuck with me through a lot, but
so
I'm sure I've had to gain trust back with a lot of them, and I'm still doing that, but it gets easier and easier every day.
Yeah. Well, every day they can trust you more.
Yeah,
for sure. What treatment facilities, you listed a couple, but right here in Haywood County, have you used any facilities right here in Haywood County? Expand on that just a little.
I've been to the Balsam Center, I've been to Appalachian Services, I've been to, well, that's really all there is in Haywood County.
Well said. Well said. What about harm reduction?
Harm reduction, I use them
Not really a
all
facility,
the time.
but yeah.
Great people work there to help you out if you're struggling or if you're not struggling or whatever. Harm reduction is very important for us right now in this community, for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're not just there passing out needles. I promise you that. They do a lot more than that.
Yeah. What other things are you doing right now to continue to help yourself grow as a person? Are you in any support groups? Are you in therapy? Are you, doing things to help the health of your whole person, if you will?
I'm in an NAAA. I have a support group through the medication I get through the doctor that we have every week. Yeah, so I'm in a few
So that's
different
good.
communities.
That's good. So you've got people you're accountable to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all on Zoom right now. As soon as it's.
So tell me a little bit more about that. Have
Yeah.
you found? Because I hear both sides of that. Have you found that the virtual thing has been good? Has it been something you will kind of keep up even when you're allowed to do in-person meetings also? Have you found it to be just a stopgap? Tell me a little bit more about that, how that's worked for you.
I think the virtual thing works great. You don't have to drive, you don't have to spend money on gas, you get the same thing
Yes.
there. As far as building relationships through that, it's kind of more difficult.
Yeah.
But other than that, if you just need the group aspect of it, you'll get that.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good to hear. Have you taken advantage of any of the groups that are not necessarily your normal groups? You know, because now everybody's doing it. You could do a support group in California if you wanted to. Have you experimented any with that?
No.
Yeah.
I'm stuck with the main.
What you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you do have some relationships in that. So.
Yeah.
So what would you tell, we're winding down a little bit, what would you tell youngsters now? What would you, if you could go into middle school right now and you could have a podium and tell kids that might have had that same attitude that you had when you were 13, 14 years old, that, just gonna experiment a little bit. What would you tell, especially knowing what you know now, and especially knowing what you know about drugs now and how potent they are and those types of things? What advice would you give to not only that stadium of people or group of people, but maybe to the parents as well?
Oh man, good question. But I would probably say find something you're into. Stick with that. Drugs aren't cool. They'll ruin your life. Don't succumb to peer pressure. If someone's trying to get you to try certain things, just go find different friends. I know it's easier said than done, but I've lived it. I've definitely lived, and a lot of it's my own fault, but I lived a life where it's stabbing yourself in the back a lot. But find what you like, stick with it. Find a career. If that doesn't work out, you'll meet people that'll steer you in another direction. Yeah,
because you did use the word bored jumped out at me when you said a little bit ago that you were bored.
Yeah.
So.
Bored is the big word that'll make you do things. That made me do a lot of the things I did. Yeah.
So find something you can do that keeps your interest
and
keeps you busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yes. So anything else you want to add? Have we missed anything you wanted to make sure you got out there?
No, we're good.
Okay. So last, stigma. I want to ask about stigma. I got one more question. And then the final question. So how has stigma influenced you through the years? Has it kept you from seeking treatment? Has it kept you from talking to other people about your addiction? How has stigma influenced you through the years?
At the beginning, it definitely stopped me from telling the people I love about my problems. But throughout the years, I stopped caring what anybody thought. And as soon as I did that, everything started to fall into place. So your own personal thought of stigma is if you can just put that aside and not worry about it. It definitely helped me. But what people think definitely affects how you.
Do you feel like you still have stigma around you right now?
For sure.
And how does that manifest? What does that mean when I ask you that and you say sure right away?
Basically to me it means do I get looked down on it being an addict? Yeah, for sure. a lot of the people won't give you credit for trying to do the right thing. Once you're in that bracket of being an addict, you're there.
Yeah.
You know, you're not allowed out. That's the whole thing. So, I mean,
shame
there's got to be a
on
way
us.
out. There's got to be a way out at some point.
Yes.
Whether it's, whatever it is, whether it's 10 years or whatever. I'm perfectly capable of doing anything else anybody else can do.
Yeah. Well said. That's, yeah. We got to give people credit that are doing the right thing and are on their way to recovery, whether it's been 6 months or a year or 42 years, as in the interview I did last week. You know, there's got to be some point where you can redeem yourself. I mean, that's and shame on us for not giving you the benefit of the doubt and and looking at you in a different way than that initial opinion. And okay, last question. If there was one thing you could change, you've been a little active, you said, with harm reduction and a couple things there, talking with some of those people. If there was one thing that you could change in this area, you had a magic wand, whatever, that you could change, would it be something about treatment? Would it be about stigma? Would it be, what would that be if there was one thing that you could influence and change in this area? What would that be? What's missing? What's...
Maybe education on topics such as harm reduction, such as addiction, such as mental health, such as stuff like that. Educating people that might not know anything about it. It's hard to say one thing because, giving these addicts that are sharing needles and stuff like that a safe place to do that would also be a great thing to do, where you're controlling all that. It would definitely help on spreading disease and stuff like that. So that's another thing. But there's two.
Yeah, it is. It's such a big. I know it's hard to narrow down because there is so much that's involved in it. But Right. Anything else?
I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you, Brian, for
problem.
sharing your story.
Thanks a lot.
And there is hope.
Yeah.
And he's proof of that.
Yeah.
So 27th, almost a year.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.